Good evening, everyone. It's Emily Hancock here from the training barn. We've just got a couple of minutes until we start. We'll wait to see if a few more people log on. I've got Hannah here, Hannah Freeland.
Good evening, everyone.
She's on tech this evening. And I just want you guys, if you can, to tap yes into the chat box if you can hear me. And also, if you could tap in your name and where you're from, maybe if you're an amateur photographer or a professional photographer, let us know if we know you guys. But firstly, if you could just let me know that you can hear me. Hello. Oh, loud and clear. Hi, Nina from North Yorks.
I thought that said New York.
Hi, Ron. Thank you. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes to let everyone join us. Thanks, Katie. Oh, nothing North Yorks. I wonder whether you guys know each other, Nina and Katie. Hi, Chrissy. Hi, Kevin. George from the Scottish Borders. Hi. Hello, Rosemary. Hi, Steph.
Hi, Sue.
Depths of the Fens. All good, Anne from Lincolnshire. Hi. Hi, Phil. Hi, Dan. Hi, Nikki. Nice to see so many of you guys on this evening. So can you tell me if you guys are amateurs or pros? Obviously, we know quite a few of you guys. Lovely to see you all. Hi, Bob from Bedfordshire. Carrie from Scotland. Eva from Lancashire. Sally from Kent. Hi. Hi, guys. Hi, Gillian. Francesca from Oxfordshire. Okay, just a quick bit of house. Pro, I think. I'm sure you are, Katie. Okay, so just a quick bit of housekeeping. If you guys have any problem with your internet signal, it's best just to log out and log in. You won't lose your spot. There will also be a replay of the webinar for you delivered to your inbox. I think it's tomorrow morning. And remember, you guys can ask questions, lots of questions. Now, unless it's there's a good time to do it, Hannah will wait until the end to ask all the questions. This evening we are talking about 5 top tips to safe, stress-free and striking horse liberty photos. And so if I can encourage you guys to keep the questions around this subject, then we can have a really in-depth talk about photographing horses at liberty. So the other thing I wanted to mention, we're going to try for an hour-long session. We're not very good at that. We tend to talk a bit too much, and so it might run over by a few minutes, but it should be around an hour. Anyway, just for anyone who's just joined, I'm Emily Hancock from the Training Barn, and I've got Hannah Freeland, my partner in crime, on tech this evening. So the only other thing before we start now is just to let you guys know, for anyone who wasn't on the webinar last week, is that at the end of this training, we have got an announcement of the release of a new course that we're going to tell you about. But we'll do all the good stuff now, and I think we're ready to go. Yep. Okay, cool. I'm going to just close the chat now because otherwise I get a bit distracted by everyone's questions. And we'll get going. Right, here we are. So guys, I want you to zone in. This is time for you and your businesses. We've got loads of golden nuggets here, and I want you guys to take loads of notes. So make sure you've got your pen and your pad, and hopefully you've all got a cup of tea next to you. So you're in the right place if you want to create striking equine images. Maybe you need a confidence boost, but you want the inside knowledge of a seasoned professional. Okay, so who are we? For those guys who don't know us, I'm going to really quickly whiz through a little bit about myself and Hannah. I have been a successful equine photographer for over 20 years now. I've achieved 2 fellowships with the British Institute of Professional Photography. I've been a trainer for over 10 years. I've been creating equine art and selling it globally for the last 8 years. And I have a studio in the New Forest. And I exhibit my work all over the globe. I'm a very, very busy person. I've got a couple of children as well to juggle, and I do juggle them with my equine work, but it's all fun. So Hannah Freeland, ABIPP, she achieved her associateship with the British Institute of Professional Photography in Equine Photography. She's created and developed a very successful equine photography business, and she's been a trainer for the last 5 years in the training barn with me. Incidentally, she was actually one of my very first training clients, and she flies all around the globe for her equine photography commission. She has a highly regarded client list and is literally booked months and months in advance. If not, she was almost booked for the entire year right at the start of this year. So like I said last year, she actually is probably the most successful equine photographer I know. Yes, so we've been working in the training barn for quite some time now together. So moving on, what are we going to learn? Okay, guys, so this is the big bit, the good bit. Today we're talking about photographing horses at liberty. And we are going to talk about how to channel your creativity. Now, I know that many people believe they're not creative, and I promise you this is not true. We all have creativity within us, and the more you use, it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the better you get at it. And so we're going to talk about that. We are going to talk about capturing the soul of a horse, what we need to know in order for us to capture that soul. Safety, it's huge, it's a huge topic, and this really sets you apart as a true professional. So we're going to delve into the safety aspect of photographing horses at liberty. Getting the gallop shot. Okay, so this is a good one. Everyone wants to be able to do it. There's a lot of preparation that goes into being able to capture this shot, and we're going to delve deep into how to do it. What if it all goes wrong? Okay, so we're going to talk about that, because I promise you, over 20 years of having been an equine photographer, shoots do go wrong, and I have got many a story to tell you about how they go wrong, but what you can do about that. And then also being brave. Every day you need to be brave as a photographer, as a freelancer, as a self-employed person, and we're going to talk around that subject a bit. Okay, guys, so I just want you to think, what if you made the change? Visualize what you really want to be. I know some of you guys are amateurs, some of you are professionals, some of you may be part-time or full-time, but I want you to really just think about if you're in the place right now where you want to make that change, you want to become an equine photographer, what if you did it? What if you change things from now going forward? Okay, channel your creativity. So depending on where you are in your business, maybe you've decided to do a project. It might be a private project, personal development, professional development, but it might also be a commissioned piece of work for a client or a commercial client. And the brief is, it's horse only. So I don't know how many of you already photograph horses by themselves, or how many of you guys photograph horses and humans only. But it can be a big step if you're used to photographing horses and humans, and then you're asked only to photograph the horse. It can be quite intimidating. But we're going to talk about how you channel your creativity to really fit a brief of photographing just the horse. Okay, So first things first, I always start with a big A3 pad. You've decided you're going to do a project, okay? And you need a big pad, some glue, some pens, and you need to start brainstorming. And the first thing you want to brainstorm is what theme you're going to aim for, okay? So themes, you might think, okay, I'm going to capture movement, or I'm going to capture a type of breed of horse. I'm going to capture a discipline, heavy horses, Shetlands. A theme might be water or flowers or details, or you might think I'm going to create a set of black and white images. So really start to write down lots of different words and think about what sort of theme you want to, what sort of theme you want to place on this project, okay? So once you've come up with your theme, you need to start storyboarding it. And the way you can do that is just search the internet, look for images on Pinterest, look at magazines, look at books, find inspiration from artists. You need to collect images. It may also be fabrics or leaves or twigs, or there's so many different things you can collect, right? So if, for example, your theme was going to be autumn, then obviously you're going to be looking at foliage and woodland and trees. Now you might collect images of that. You may add in extra pieces of leaves and twigs and colours. You want reds and oranges. And you can go wild here, right? So you don't want to hone in too quickly. You just want to think about your theme and how you're going to expand on that. Think about every different way you can expand, okay? So then you want to think about boundaries. What boundaries are you going to put on yourself? Now, this might be you're only going to shoot with one camera, you're only going to shoot with one lens. So maybe the lens is a fisheye lens, maybe it's a 400mm, maybe it's a 50mm lens, but you're only going to use one lens. You might say that you're only going to shoot from the ground. You have to be on your tummy at all times during the shoot. Or maybe you are only going to shoot from a high place. So you take a 6-foot step ladder and you will only shoot images from that position. Or maybe you're going to go into a woodland and use one location and you just have to turn in a 360-degree circle, and that's the only place you can photograph. Or maybe you have a timeline. You can set yourself lots of boundaries and think about challenges, okay? So how do you want to challenge yourself on this shoot? So you could go in completely blind, and not scout any locations, not think about themes, not think about storyboarding. You go completely blind and you have 25 minutes to shoot whatever you can, okay? And you might want to experiment, really use your eyes, really see things in a different way. Maybe you set yourself the challenge that you go to a place that you know well and you've photographed many times, and you actually take 5 steps to the left. So if you would usually shoot in one location, every time you go to shoot, you take 5 steps left. And that's your challenge. Now, I had one client once who came to me for training, and she said, "Oh, Emily, I really want to find a kind of unique style. I want to be different. I want to create some fine art. I want to just experiment." And she said, "But I'm stuck. I don't know what to do." I said, "Okay, well, we had planned to go on a photo shoot." I said, "Right. So I'll tell you what, for today, shoot 2 stops overexposed. Keep your camera at 2 stops overexposed and do the entire shoot on that." And she was like, "What? You are kidding me." I was like, no, just do it. Let's just see what the results are. It doesn't matter what the results are. The point is you're going to experiment and you're going to find something different and you're going to see things in a different way. So don't ever be frightened to experiment and change things and select one idea and run with it. you can do as many shoots as you like, right? So you could set up 5 different shoots on the same yard, and you do the first shoot, you do 2 stops overexposed. Second shoot, you do 2 stops underexposed. The next shoot, you only shoot on a 50 mil. The next shoot, you only photograph from your tummy. It can go on and on, but, channeling your creativity, you really want to plan and then execute. Just go for it. Don't worry about what's going to happen, okay? Capturing the soul. Okay, so much like children, horses are our family. If you own a horse, you'll know they really are treated like our own children. They have personalities of their own, and we really, as owners, connect with them on a very deep level. And so if you're ever working for a client and they've asked you to capture their horse, you need to think about how you're going to capture the soul of that horse. As you would with any family photo shoot or a wedding photo shoot, horses are exactly the same. So let's think about breeds, okay? What does that look like? We might have an Arabian horse to photograph. Now, traditionally, we would say that they are sparky, beautiful, highly strung horses, okay? And so you would want to try and incorporate that in your photo shoot. You want to be able to capture that side of them. I'm sure you guys know Arabian horses and the way they flare their nostrils and they bend their neck. The bend in the neck is very important for people who own Arabian horses. It's part of their conformation. And so you want to really accentuate that in your imagery. But if you're photographing a Shire horse who's like the giantest of dogs, that, is so gentle and soppy and lovely, and maybe he's a bit cheeky, maybe that horse is actually sparky. But the point is, you need to think about the breed of horse that you're photographing and remember to think about the imagery you're producing that relates to that horse's breed, right? And so character comes into this as well, because you may have an Arabian horse, and we know traditionally that they're sharp, right? But the Arabian horse you are photographing today might be really placid and chilled out and like relaxed and just loves hanging out with its owner. So you need to think about the character of the horse in order to be able to capture its soul. Location. You can use location to your advantage, right? So as an example, if you are wanting to capture a real family friendly, beautiful horse that's just chilled out and part of the family, then maybe you're going to go and find a beautiful tree with a big overhang, nice backlight coming through, just the horse stood under the tree, kind of glancing off to the side, nice wide shot. I can see it in my mind. But if you want to photograph a really powerful racehorse, maybe you want to go to a racetrack, put it right on the tip of the hill, and you get down low and photograph it against the sky so it stands up very tall and powerful. So using your locations to help with telling the story of the horse is also an important thing to plan for. Lighting, you might want to use harsh light or soft light. Think about whether you want to be indoors or outdoors. Maybe you're photographing in an arena, a horse running loose, and you want to photograph with artificial light and coloured gels so that you have blue and pink spots on the horse. Or, there's so many things you can do. That sounds quite funny, but in actual fact, there is a equine photographer who's done that and created the most beautiful body of work. So composition as well. Think about how you're cropping your images. Are you going wide? Are you going close in for the detail? Are you going for different crops? Now, depending on what you're trying to get from this project or the brief you've been given, you really need to think about how you're going to craft that image. And again, with the processing, Are you going to go high key? Are you going to go very dark? And now remember that as we're developing our styles, right? Sorry, I've just had a slightly sideward thought on this. We talk about being recognizable as a photographer and having our own style. And so any Emily Hancock image you come across, you can instantly tell it's mine. Now, I think that's fantastic. And of course, we all aim for that. But ultimately, as I go on my journey, I want to test different styles, right? Now, it might be a brief from a client and they say they want something really dark and grungy and you're going to go with that. Or it might be a personal project. And this time, instead of going dark and grungy, you want to go high key, right? And so you're going to experiment with your processing. Maybe it's muted tones. Maybe it's an entire black and white set. But maybe the black and white set is also very focused on deep shadows and bright highlights. And maybe that entire black and white set is also shot from a step ladder. So again, I mean, I've seen the most incredible work by an equine photographer that created exactly that. From a step ladder, shooting down, it was horses and riders, but basically shadows of them from above. And it was a beautiful set. But so you need to think around this project and how you're going to capture the soul of the horse. Think about the breed, the character. Think about how you can use the location. Think about what sort of lighting you're going to do, how you're going to compose the images, and finally, how you're going to process those. Okay, safety, guys. It's huge. It's always at the front of my mind. And horse safety is the biggest thing. They are huge, they are heavy, and they're very unpredictable. And, most of them are very, very happy and will go weeks and months and years without ever putting a foot wrong or out of place. And then one day something scares them and that's it, they're gone. So I'm going to tell you a marginally funny story. It wasn't that funny at the time, but a really good example of horse safety. So one of the things that I would always say you need to find is an enclosed safe space for when you're photographing. Now, enclosed, it could be a massive field, but we know that it's got a boundary and they can't get out. It might be a small stable and the door's shut, so you're enclosed. But a relative of size, I was out photographing two horses. The pony I was photographing, I was trying to get his ears forward. And there was a big dressage horse behind me who'd already had his photos taken. And I went to just kick a stone just to get this pony's ears up. And as I flicked the stone with my foot, the horse behind me absolutely freaked out, basically disappeared at the speed of light, like galloped as fast as it could through this cornfield. And for a good couple of minutes, he was galloping round the perimeter looking for a way out. Now, the gates weren't shut and it did go onto a road. So for those 2 minutes, I was freaking out, as were the owner and the handler, the groom. And thankfully, the horse ended up 3 cornfields down. And it was fine, other than some snapped reins. He was okay. But that scenario could have ended very differently had he managed to go out the gate. Since that shoot, I have never gone into a field and not shut the gate behind us when we've got horses and they're galloping around. Whether they were galloping around or not, we now shut the gates, of course, so that we know they're in an enclosed space where they're safe. So I've got a million stories like that, to be fair. I mean, you can never, yeah, I have got a lot of those, but nothing drastic. I mean, one horse, as some of you will know this, some of you won't, swam out to sea for 3 hours which was a highlight of panic, and it was horrendous. If any of you haven't heard that story, maybe you'd like to hear it another time, but
you'll go live.
I'll go live maybe in the Facebook group and tell the story for those who haven't heard it. But yeah, it was a heart-stopping moment, although the horse was fine. So horse safety is really critical. Make sure you're in enclosed spaces. Owner safety as well. Now, owners always want to please us. They don't ever want to say no, but you need to be able to read their body language, because you're going to be feeding inspiration to them, and you're going to be saying, oh, I've got this idea and I want to do this and I want to do that. And you need to double check with the owner that they feel happy and confident, that their horse is going to feel happy and confident in any scenario that you're going to ask them. And just remember to pick up on that body language. If you don't get oh, absolutely, he'll be fine, not a problem. If you get the response of, oh, yeah, I suppose that will be okay, then you need to ask more questions. Okay, what do we think might happen here? Okay. Assistant safety. So always having an assistant with you is a good idea. If they are horsey, even better, because quite often an owner will say, oh, can you just hold that horse while I get, something else or whatever you need. And to have an assistant that is horsey is really handy. And also just making sure that they understand, if they're not horsey, that they understand the rules of horsemanship, i.e. don't walk behind the horse, don't startle the horse, don't make loud noises around the horse, just staying very quiet and calm, so that we don't encourage the horse to become upset or wild. Some of them get wild. Your safety, important. Now, I've done this a few times. I've been photographing a horse maybe over a fence, and I am stood on the road, and cars drive on roads, fairly obvious. But sometimes when you're in the flow of photographing and creating, you forget about your own safety and where you are and what you're doing. So just be cautious of that. And having good footwear on is very important. Horses can stand on your toes and break them. They are heavy, heavy horses, even the smallest ones. And the other thing is, what was I going to say? Footwear, and then what was I going to say? Footwear.
Your safety. Don't stand near the back of a horse.
That's the one. Don't go near the back of a horse because they kick. Yes. Thank you, Hannah. She's on the ball today.
It's because you said feet. I thought feet for everyone.
Yes. Yeah. So don't stand behind a horse. Some horses kicks, most of them don't, but you never want to take the chance.
Be respectful.
Yes, be very, very respectful. And insurance, making sure you guys have got insurance. For anyone on the webinar last week, you will have heard about that, and it's absolutely vital that you have insurance. The horse owner is also likely to have themselves and their horse insured, but you don't want to leave it to them for your insurance, right? Okay. Getting the gallop shot. Okay, we get asked about this so often. The galloping shot can be difficult. Don't underestimate the amount of preparation you have to get in for this, okay? Now, depending on what horse and location you have, you may only have up to 3 or 4 runs, gallops, before the horse is done. If you get more than that, great, fantastic, you're in luck, but you need to be on your game as soon as it starts running. Okay, first things first, you need definitely a large confined space. If you want to get the horse galloping at full speed, the ideal is in a field. It needs to be obviously fenced and taped, just so that the horse cannot get out. Obviously, you need to be in a fence, in a field where the horse can't jump out of the field. In the ideal world, and you'll see in this shot, shot here, we're at the top of a hill. Okay, so actually what we've got behind us is sky. So if you are able to find a field where it sort of goes up on a gentle hill, and then at the top of the hill is a nice ridge, if you can get the horse to gallop along that ridge, you will get a nice clean background. You can get low and shoot up so that you've just got a clear background. So the handler and assistant, you would want to separate. So you'd have one at one end of the field and one at the other. Okay, so just for argument's sake, we will say that you found a field that has a little slope and you can run the horse across the top of the ridge, right? So you've got one handler one side and one handler at the other side. Now, in the ideal world, they'll have some helpful aids. One would be a bucket of nuts, food that they can shake in a bucket. And the handler, or the one with the horse in his hand, would have probably a lunge whip. Okay, so what's going to happen is you want the horse to run from one handler to the other. Okay, because if you can pretty much predict what line the horse is going to run on, then you can get yourself in position. Okay, now it's important to think about position, all right? So when I look at this computer screen, okay, if you can imagine, we've got the hill, and across the top, on the left-hand side, we've got the handler with the horse, and then on the right-hand side of you, you've got the assistant with the bucket of nuts. So the horse is going to start on the left, and you want to really position yourself about bang smack in the middle of the field, okay? You're probably going to be low and shooting high so that you can get the sky in. And then when you are ready, the handler will lead the horse up to that top corner. And you will say, okay, when you're ready, let the horse go. And they will flick the whip behind it. They don't actually have to use the whip on the horse. You know, the horses know that that's a whip and that they want to run from it. So they will start to run, and hopefully simultaneously your assistant will start to shake the nuts, and that horse will run straight to the assistant for a handful of nuts. Okay?
And stop.
And stop, yes, as Hannah points out. Okay, so you're in the middle. Now, thinking about your kit, you need to make sure you've got the right kit. In order to get this shot, depending on how big the field is, I would shoot on a 400mm lens, f2.8, okay, and I would have a monopod. I want to be stood and I want to be able to pan as the horse comes galloping past me, okay? That would be my lens of choice if I'm in a big field and for these loose shots. As far as settings go, you must be on continuous focus. You want to make sure your shutter speed is 500 seconds or higher, 500ths of a second, sorry, or higher. And I would shoot again on 2.8 for these shots. But that's just my settings. You know, like I said, you guys experiment, and depending on the theme of the shoot, if you're going for movement, your shutter speed might come right down to a 1/6 or a 1/10 of a second, which is what I use when I'm photographing movement. Or, you know, depending on what, like I said, depending on what theme you're going for will determine your kit and your settings.
Karen says, you make it sound so easy.
So easy. It's really not easy, Karen. I promise. I've had many stories of horses, you know, letting the horse go at the top of the field, assuming it's going to run straight to where the nuts are, run straight at me. And then I'm jumping out the way. Okay, how do we make it go straight? You know, get someone else in position to push it back up the hill. Yes, I probably do make it sound easy. It's not easy at all.
We've also had a horse that was very sprightly coming up the hill, and then as soon as we let it go, going towards the nuts, put its head down and went, I'll just eat the grass. It's
fine. But you've got the basis here, right? So you need to go and experiment. And I mean, first things first, if you just want to try and get a galloping shot, put it in an arena, right? Because we've got Photoshop. We all know editing's amazing. You can get rid of horrible backgrounds or whatever you want. So if you feel more comfortable at first, getting the owner just to have a lunge whip in their hand and, you know, loose school it round about you, and you just follow it and take photographs, and then work up to going into a nice big field where it can gallop across the top of a hill.
Julie's just put, mine would roll.
Oh yeah, well, rolling, yeah, had all that. They're unpredictable, like we say. So, but you know, just remember that horses get tired. They're very clever. They know what you're at. So, you know, if you don't give them any nuts at the end of the run, they're certainly not going to run for you again. If you're going to ask them to run up a hill, some will be far too lazy to bother with that. You don't want to have them running down steep hills. We had an Arabian once, galloping in a herd of horses, and it was all going so well. And then this one Arabian horse just got really like crazy, and it was slightly wet. He skidded, fell over, and skidded straight under the fence. I was like, oh my God. The owner, I said to the owner, oh no, oh God, this is awful. Is he okay? Is he okay? It was like, he's fine. He's an Arab. I didn't expect anything less from him. So, you know, they're unpredictable. We can't, you know.
But that's because you prepped with your owner and you'd walked him through the safety, and he felt comfortable enough to say, no, Emily, I don't want him to do that, or yes, Emily, let's go for it.
He knew we were galloping a herd of horses, and, you know, there was electric tape making sure they stayed in between two areas. And yeah, the Arabian just went straight under it, skidding on his side. So he was fine. He was absolutely fine. Okay. So before we carry on, I want you to let us know if you've ever photographed loose horses before, and what was your biggest challenge. So if you just go ahead and type in the chat box, have you photographed loose horses before? Yes or no? And then what was your biggest challenge when doing that? Now, you might find that it was you couldn't find any nice locations, or maybe that getting the horse to do what you wanted to do was tricky, or maybe you just didn't know what you wanted to achieve and you found that most challenging.
Interesting. So Sue says New Forest and Exmoor.
Okay.
A lot of people are saying, no, we've not tried it, not at speed. Earlier, quite a few people said that they'd done some faster shots, but with a rider.
Yeah.
Either in the herd or it was a rider in horse shot.
Interesting. Sue says the biggest challenge was photographing New Forest and Exmoor ponies.
I think that's what she's done.
Oh, okay.
But maybe.
Well, my point was going to be that I agree. Sometimes photographing wild herds of ponies is very difficult, because you're not, unless you're very lucky and they happen to be running when you are out with your camera, the chances are they're standing around sleeping or eating. And so you need to be really creative about how you capture them and capture their soul. And so this is where having a theme, having an idea, having a real vision of what you're going to create can help with that.
Okay, so Steph is always struggle with keeping focus. Carrie, not having an assistant, did my horses loose, but holding camera and a lunge line was difficult.
Right, hang on, 2 ticks. Losing focus, I think it would be interesting to know. Sorry, who was that? Steph, do you shoot on continuous focus? Because if you don't, that will probably be the reason for you losing focus.
Yeah.
And sorry, who said they were?
Carrie,
photographing whilst lunging. Do you mean
holding the lunge line was difficult?
You were actually holding your horse.
I did my horses loose, so yeah.
And
good for you.
Yeah, well
good
done.
For you.
That's like superwoman
Yeah.
powers.
Getting them to go where I wanted. Then because there was only 2-1 bucked and super narrowly missed my head. Learning curve, Martha. Well done, Martha, for keep going. Challenge was keeping them interested in me and the camera. A few of them got bored and walked off. Being there.
Yeah.
That's Francesca. Was so loved to. Biggest challenge, wanting sharp images.
Francesca, you might find, I don't know whether you've, depending on what you were photographing and whether it was safe to do so or not, whether you've heard of the horse neighing app. Because if you were in an enclosed location and you just needed the horses, but you didn't have an assistant to help you, you could use the horse neighing app, and that would just get their attention. Now, you don't keep doing it over and over, you just do it once or twice, and that will spark their interest. What was that last one you just said?
Wanting sharp images with too much movement, distracting background, i.e. in a school. So the biggest challenge was wanting sharp images. Okay,
so you need to make sure your shutter speed is high enough.
Distracting background.
Yeah, so...
That's planning.
Yeah, that is planning. And either you need to master Photoshop to be able to get rid of those backgrounds, or you need to find backgrounds like how I just said, going to the top of a hill and finding sky.
There's a few people who are just saying anticipating their direction and reading the situation quickly has been a challenge.
Yeah. So I started out photographing equine events. And the photographer I worked for, he said, I do not want 100 bad photographs of one rider. I want 3 perfect shots, and that's it. And so I became very quick at knowing when the perfect moment was to shoot. And you only get that by shooting a lot. You're better off going out on one of your shoots and photographing as much as you can, and then analysing your images when you get back and really understand what you're looking at, what you've captured and why it's speaking to you. So then when you go on your next shoot, you're waiting for that moment to come through your camera for you to capture it.
I'm going to save some of the other challenges because they're actually going to make great questions.
Okay,
we're going to test. Emily.
Okay, all right. Oh, that sounds exciting. Okay, so dream, plan, do, guys. People get scared of creativity, but not you guys, okay? You're here, you're listening, you're ready to take on the challenge. And I want you to dream big. Think about the projects you can do. Think about expanding your portfolio. Think about what new work you can bring to your clients. Really dream it. Then plan it. Get your big A3 pad and start brainstorming, either by yourself or find a buddy. Now, I really highly recommend that you guys all buddy up and get to know each other. We're all equine photographers. It's so much fun having other equine photographers as friends to bounce ideas off. So get together and plan. And then whatever you do, don't forget to do the doing part. That is the critical bit that will move your business forward, that will move your creativity forward, and that will really make you stand out against the crowd. Okay, so dream, plan, do. What if it goes wrong? Okay, well, like I said, I've got hundreds of stories where it's gone wrong. One of the things that can go wrong is weather. Weather is so unpredictable here in the UK, but sometimes weather can work to our advantage. And I'll tell you about one shoot I did.
How about that one? Because I remember you saying how cold.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so the photograph that is there, that's in Iceland. It was so bitter, and the wind was absolutely howling. We'd been out for hours, but actually, you know, you see the beautiful lines that the pony's mane is making, and the wind actually was adding to it. Now, I couldn't feel my fingers. I wanted to cry and go home. But for that shot particularly, the wind really added something. I was photographing one day, not in Iceland, somewhere in the UK, for 14 hours. And the last shot of the day, we were experimenting. and we had the horse, it was artificially lit, it was in a lake, and we were right at the end, and I was like, oh my goodness, it's starting to rain. But I said, okay, we'll just get this shot, and we'll finish. But actually what happened is, because we had the very soft rain coming down on the horse and we were artificially lighting from the back, we then had what looked like it was a black sky and twinkling lights above the horse, and it is just the most beautiful image. But that was where the weather turned on us, and I actually used it to my advantage. Horse behavior, you know, like I keep saying, they're very unpredictable. You need to be quick. You might need to give the horse a break, but you need to be really efficient. You need to be able to read horse behavior and to be able to see when it's fed up, to be able to see when it's hungry or needs a break. And so really tuning into that horse is critical. Kit failure, that's happened, definitely happened to me a couple of times, but I always have a backup. As a professional photographer, you should carry backup kit, a backup camera and a backup lens, obviously backup cards and batteries. But really, if you're being paid to shoot, you should have a backup set of kit. That's just the nature of being a professional.
Or an equine photographer who's a best friend.
Yeah.
Who stays close to you.
Yes. So I do often lend out my backup kit to friends who don't have backup kit. Nervous owner. Okay, so they're really looking for guidance from you. So you need to step into that position and be the confident one and lead the shoot, so that the owner feels confident. Because if on a shoot you have a nervous owner, you are not going to get out of the shoot what you originally planned, because the owner is going to put blocks in your way to doing that. Now, of course, you need to, if the owner is nervous because he can't handle her horse off the yard, then that's a legitimate, safety issue. But if the owner's just nervous because it's a photo shoot and she doesn't know what to expect, then you need to step into that position, authoritative position, and say, you know what, I'm the professional photographer, I've got this. This is what I'm planning. This is what I'd like to do. You say if you're happy or not with it, but this is what I'd like to try and achieve, and then go from there. Bad location. I've turned up at many places and thought, I'm not sure what I'm going to use here. Best thing to do is go and stand in one position and do a 360-degree turn and really use your eyes and look. And if all else fails and you can't find something, then start experimenting. Do something a bit different. Find different angles. Think about different textures. Just see what you can do, and you'll only push yourself on to be more creative when you come across difficult situations. If things are always nice and easy, then you never develop as a photographer. So in some ways, we want these things to happen so that we can see how we react, how we change in these situations. Okay, being brave. You guys need to push the limits. The photographers that stand out really go and push the limits. They think big and they think small. They change their ideas, they change their plans. They really, think beyond the normal. I've always said for many years, which is why now I create a lot of mixed media art, is I said, I always, this is me personally, I feel that a photograph of a horse will always look like a horse. A horse is a horse, and it will always look like a horse. But something in me wants to find the feeling of a horse. I don't necessarily want to see a horse in all its fine detail, but I want a feeling. And you can see in this image on the right, there's a feeling and emotion attached to this image. And it might be different for every one of us looking at this, but it doesn't necessarily say, okay, well, this is a black Arabian horse trotting. It says something deeper. And for me, that's what I wanted to develop as a photographer and an artist. So you must not let fear stop you, because everyone does. We are all guilty of it. We all get fearful. We all think, but what if it doesn't work? What if I can't get the shots I want? What if? It carries on, and we talk in our heads, and we end up stopping ourselves doing stuff. So don't let fear get in your way. Try and be brave, step outside your comfort zone, and have fun with it. You know, particularly when you're doing professional development and it's not attached to a brief, you can really afford to just have fun and experiment and allow yourself to fail. Okay, it's really important that you guys, you know, I would go on a photo shoot, and sometimes I just want to come home with 3 images, 3 striking images. Now, if you do that every single shoot, I promise you, your portfolio will build really quickly. It doesn't take long if all you're aiming for is 3 stunning shots.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course you can. I can see she's looking at me.
Do you think that there is any brand new ideas that can be found with equine photography?
Yes, I love that question. Absolutely. Now, there's a photographer, and you probably have all seen his work, but he dug 10-foot holes in the ground, put glass over the holes, and got horses to walk on the glass while he was underneath and shooting up. Like, who else has thought of that? He has. Maybe 10 or 20 other photographers have thought of it, but what made him different? He actually did it. So, you know,
but he probably put his cat on his glass coffee table.
Yeah.
Took a photo and thought, that's a good idea.
We could do this with a horse. Now go YouTube it, because there are videos of him doing it.
Yeah, everyone's love these. Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible. You know, what you think of anything and you go and do it. The guy or lady who photographed horses having had their hair done, like they'd been to a hairstylist, was an incredible set of images. The lady who photographed the horses with blue and red gels on them created a whole collection.
The guy that did the mud, horses covered in mud.
Horses covered in mud. You know, you can think of anything. There is no limit to your creativity, and what you decide to create is entirely up to you. There's no limit, and it doesn't matter. Okay, you can be inspired by all these people. I'm often inspired by artists. You can be inspired by all these people, and you can take a tiny little bit from each and make something different. So that's generally what happens with artists and creatives, is that you're inspired by many, many people across many different genres. And through the years, you collect little things that you like about everything and anything, right? And in the back of your mind, it's working and working and working. And you come up with this idea and you run with it. And actually what you find is from 10 years of inspiration of looking at various bodies of work and collections, and you've taken tiny little things that you love about that. So it might not be the whole series that you love or the whole idea, but just one little bit about it. And then you've added that into your inspiration pot, and you start to create work that is yours and in your style.
Then we've got lots of like the powder.
Yes, powder on
loads.
Horses. I mean, there's just, the world's your oyster. You can.
That's why you got to storyboard it.
Yeah, I mean, who is it? Tim Walker photographs horses in incredible mansions, like in the dining room.
Ripley
composites
from London skylines, and puts a racehorse on top of a Buckingham Palace, and
like amazing. It's so fun and exciting to go out there and do something different. Okay, so
Don't all run off and start your storyboarding.
Yeah. Okay, guys, I want you to inhale confidence and exhale doubt. You guys can all do this, okay? We know that you always feel overwhelmed because we do get that a lot. This is such great content, but oh my goodness, where do I start? You guys need to take a deep breath, okay? Take one step at a time and start to build your confidence, build your creativity, and make sure you go and head to the Training Barn website. We have got absolutely loads of free content for you. We've got blog posts. Make sure you're part of the Facebook group. We do go live most weeks in the group and talk about different subjects, horse photography. So make sure you go and hang out there as much as you can. But honestly, guys, just go and do it. Just don't worry, don't let the fear stop you, okay? So I am going to pass over to Hannah in just a minute. But first, before we move on to our Q&A session, we're going to tell you about a brand new online course. The doors are open. We've been working really hard over the last 6 months on this. And this is a horse-only photography course. So, Hannah, I'm on.
I'm doing this because Emily needs to have a drink of water, the poor thing. As Emily said, hi, evening everyone. As Emily said, we've been creating this course from so much love and passion, and the questions we've received in the last, Emily's been training for 12 years, and there's so many people come to us and say, I'm not quite ready to photograph humans yet. I'm not quite ready to direct a horse and their owner. Or you want to work on your art, or you want to work for magazines and they want horse-only images. So we have created a 6-part online course. It's completely self-paced, so you can instantly access it as soon as you purchase the course. You can work through it in your own time, and you can revisit it as many times as you like. You get lifetime access to this course. So in module 1, I'm just going to walk you through, get you guys excited because we've put so much love into this course. So module 1 is your kit and settings. So we've gone through some of the settings this evening on, let's say, the Galloping Shot, but we go into, if you do want to capture movement in the camera, how you can slow your shutter speed down, how you can capture different feelings and images. So it's making sure you get your kit right. The essentials you can't be without, and you do get a checklist as a bonus with this, so you can simply take that checklist and tick it off before you leave the door. We've got your clothing tips and tricks and your settings for every shoot. Moving on to module 2 is understanding horses. Now, we know many of you in this group may already own horses and may have worked with horses all your life, and some people just have a passion for horses, but actually haven't worked with them for long. So whether you've been with horses all your life or you've never worked with horses before, that when you come to horses from a photography side, there's certain things that you need to know. So we go into equine psychology, the characters, keeping the client safe throughout lots of shoots, so like the speech shoot, things like that, horse safety and your safety. And that does come down to the type of breeds and characters that you work with. Skipping over to module 3, planning and storyboarding. So if you guys feel 10%, if you feel excited about, after hearing tonight's webinar, about going and making a storyboard, going onto Pinterest, typing in autumn leaves and how you can put that with your next equine shoot, this was only, it wasn't even 10% of module 3, 1% of module 3. We walk you through how to really plan out a photo shoot to get the absolute most from each of your clients, your models, your friends, even your horse. So we set the goals, how to prepare for the shoot, the storyboarding, where and how to find your inspiration, and then niching down. So just like the example of the guy that went underneath the horse, this is, you need to find your thing. Module 4, the technical bits. I bet you guys can understand that Emily didn't do the technical bits. It's really important to know that just like driving a car, when you're learning to drive a car, and everyone just put yourself back in that time where you were thinking, I don't know where third gear is, and how many times do I need to check the mirror, and I do 10 till 2, and how do I open the door, and how do I, seatbelts on, and I need to look in each mirror and go round a roundabout. Once you know how to drive the car and it's automatic that you just go into third gear, you can then concentrate on driving well. It's exactly the same when you're photographing. Once you understand, and it's natural, how to light in natural or artificial lighting, which location is going to be the best background for each shot, and again, the posings in the back of your head, that is how you can get creative, purely creative. It's because everything else is confidently secure in yourself. Module 5 is the shoot. We walk you step by step on structuring a creative shoot and how to run it to get the most out of not only the horse, but also yourself, how you find your own style. And so I read your comments during the webinars, mindset and confidence. If you got nothing else from this course, which is not going to be possible, but having a wonderful confidence, inner confidence and a new mindset, you will be a different photographer. And lastly, module 6, which was the most fun, the finishing touches. So you will actually be able to watch 3 of my horse only photo shoots, and there's a mare and a foal, actually 2 because one of them's Emily, a mare and a foal on his own, and then a beautiful grey, he was just a lovely horse, and we actually photographed him in the sand dunes. You get to see which images I pick from those shoots, why I picked them, and which images I rejected and why I rejected them. But I also talk about the backgrounds, where I moved the mare and foal, how I photographed them. I self-critique as I go, so you guys can get that. And then I do basic edit, so doing exposure and your blacks and your darks and your shadows. And then we go on to the advanced editing, so how to take out a lead rope so that you can keep the horse safe but the owner close by. And then we give you lots of software advice. Not only do you get those 6 modules, but these bonuses, I mean, they're so good. You download them, PDF, print them out, put them on your desk, put them in your camera bag, so that if you are on a photo shoot, you can simply get out your lighting cheat sheet and just get that confidence straight back up. If you're worried about posing, get your posing cheat sheet, and again, your confidence goes sky high. There's so much content in these bonuses, and one of my favorites is the goals and planning workbook. You print it out, make sure you set your goals. Even if you do 3-month goals, print it out again, do your 6-month goals, print it out again, do 12-month goals. And then you can make sure that you're keeping up with these things. Another addition, support system. It's a private Facebook group called the Art of Equine Photographers Members. And in there you can put your images in there, and both Emily or I will critique your images. So if you say, these were out of focus, these were my exact settings, what should I be doing? We will be in there to support you. Whew. The other thing I will say, and I'm going to post a link to the course, we have a huge offer right now. And I would say that 90% of the people who have already bought the horse course have taken us up on this offer, because it is a whopper. We are including, so the horse course itself is £195. We have priced it so that everyone can be part of this. We want to give you all confidence, a new mindset, inspiration, and the get-go to go and do this. However, we've also given you the opportunity, if you would like to get the Art of Equine Photography, which is horse and human course, another 6-module course, self-paced, lifetime access, and it walks you through how to photograph horses with their owners, which is what Emily and I do every day of the week, and I love it so much. And you can get it for an extra £200. So the entire bundle, after we close this launch, which is the last day of October, on the 31st of October, to buy both the courses will be £790. Until the 31st of October, you can buy both courses for £395. I will post that offer in the links, and I'm going to ask my questions to Emily. She's had a cup of tea, a reboot, and let's go. Okay. Okay.
Fascinating reading all your comments.
You don't normally get to indulge, do you? Let me post the offer. Publish. Beautiful. And it's a 50% discount to buy both courses now. Okay. Q&A.
Lots of interesting questions.
So I'm going to start. So Lisa Mitchell, do you get private clients asking for these kinds of images or just corporate?
Both private and corporate, commercial. I also do a lot myself and then sell them. So yeah, to be honest, if you put it in your portfolio, then people will start requesting it.
I do remember once having a fine art shot in my portfolio, and I got contacted by a horse sanctuary to do a fine art shot, headshot of every single horse on the horse sanctuary. So it's, as Emily said, if it's in your portfolio. Daryl, what are your views on flash? Love to try it, but worried about spooking the horse.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, flash. 99.9% of my work is without flash. I have had the occasional request for flash, and so I have used it. You need to make sure that your insurance covers you. You need to double check, phone them up, ask them if you're covered using flash with horses, because there are some insurance companies that do not cover you. But yeah, you know, if you're into that, go for it. You just need to be cautious of the safety aspect. But, you know, if you're very clever now, actually, you can use natural lighting for a huge amount of different styles and effects. You just have to be a bit clever about it.
Steph asks, what settings did you use for the galloping shot? Or what settings would you use for a gallop?
For a gallop? Let's say
you've got a 400mm lens.
400mm lens, continuous focus, f2.8, and make sure an ISO up high enough so that the shutter speed is over 0.05 of a second.
Chris asks, question for Emily later. Which particular photograph or set of photos, not artwork, of a particular breed has been your most profitable? Such a good question.
Wow.
I think I know the answer.
Do you? I don't.
It's either your Frisian, any Frisian with the mane, the movement.
Yes.
It's either or
Frisians.
Camargue.
The Camargue.
Yeah, I think the Camargue was.
Camargue. But that's, read the question again.
Which particular photograph or set of photos, not artwork, so not your encaustic or your flower horse,
right? Okay.
Of a particular breed has been the most profitable?
I mean, over 20 years, I just couldn't say, because.
But that is because you've captured soul and character, so it doesn't matter what the breed is.
No, you're right, actually. I mean, of course, the big moving breeds create striking images, but that doesn't reflect on how much the client spends. Depending on how they value photography and what they're looking for. So, you know, I've photographed Shetlands before that have been ridiculously profitable for me, and they're tiny, like you can barely see their legs. That's tricky.
I had a client last year, sorry, I'll come on, so it's not just so rude. I had a that doesn't work. I had a client last year who, it's too close to you, who booked me to photograph her 3 older horses, but she wanted them trotting up the field, and her husband held a bucket one end and she went the other end, and I photographed them for, and I'm not joking, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and she bought 6 frames, a USB stick, because they were her beloved babies. Yeah. Okay, Nikki, I'm not sure what, right, so how best do you approach beach shoots when they're at liberty?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. So we would usually pen off an area with electric fencing. I mean, not electrified, but just white tape, and have an area that's enclosed with on the beach. Or I've been lucky enough to photograph horses that are connected with their owners, where the owner can just whistle, and so the horse can go running up the beach with no tack or anything on it, and then the owner whistles and it will turn around and gallop back. That's not normal in any way, shape or form. Cordoning off an area would be your best bet.
Charlie, would you just not get the shot with a 200mm lens? This is when we were talking about the galloping shot.
Yeah, absolutely, you can. Depending on how big the field is, if you've got a sizable field to work with, you'll very quickly notice that your 200mm isn't close enough. Now, I don't own a 400mm, I rent a 400mm. So you can rent it for, I don't know, 20 quid or 50
No, Emily, no. You see, she has an assistant who
rents the lens. Yeah. How much?
It's probably £150 a day now.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So
it's still a lot cheaper than £8,000.
Yeah, buying the lens. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
It's still worth it.
But yes, try on your 200mm, or if you don't find that's long enough, either find a smaller location where it will be enough, or possibly rent or borrow.
Well, if someone in this group's got a 400mm lens and someone else has got the confidence to go and book the shoot, pair up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Helen, do you use back button focus, Emily and Hannah?
No.
No.
No, I've never used it.
I have used it when I was eventing because I was told by the guy stood next to me, you should be back button, and it made no difference. How would you set up a herd of galloping horses?
Again, using electric tape to create a channel where they can run together along a strip of land. You need to make sure that either the owner of the herd or the owners of all the horses in that herd are comfortable with that, because like I said, that Arabian horse just got excited, skidded right up to the fence, fell over, and then went straight underneath it. Now if you've got someone that's not comfortable with you photographing a herd of horses galloping, then you need to remove that horse from the herd before you start. So yes, like using a strip of land ideally.
Now, I know we're not going to get to all the questions this evening because there are a lot, but anyone who isn't part of the Facebook group already, go and join our private Facebook group, Training Barn Members Group. I've put the link in the top. Do feel free to post those questions there because there's lots of other professionals in there and we're all willing to help each other. Holly, this is a great question, actually. We get asked this all the time. So if you're photographing a mare and foal alongside each other, she sometimes struggles to get them both in focus at the same time. We get asked this all the time, don't we? So what's your advice for that?
Well, so there's a couple of different things. Depending on how far they are away from you, you could photograph on 5/6, and you should be able to get them in if they're quite far away, because they'll be on the same plane, essentially. But if they're a bit closer to you, then you're going to need to increase your aperture or change your angle so that you've got, their heads are on the same plane. To be honest, what you need to do is experiment. Go and photograph a mare and foal and keep changing your aperture, your distance from them, and see how that affects your results. But I would go 5/6 and make sure that they're quite far back so that I'm zooming in on 200mm.
Okay, couple more questions. Higher shutter speed indoors. How do you keep the light up without going grainy?
Well, that's tricky because, low light is always going to add to the grain in your images. The better the kit you have, the less grain you'll have. So depending on what kit you have at the moment may make a difference if you can upgrade, if you can afford to. There is also noise reduction in Lightroom that you can use sparingly, I add. But yeah, it's tricky in low light.
We've got quite a few questions about technical, like how many focus points do you use, or on continual focus, confused between 3D 11 tracking points or dynamic area autofocus.
Yeah. So I would use one focus point that you can move from left to right or up and down, and do that at the back of your camera, hopefully. I'm pretty sure every camera does it at the back.
It's quicker on a Nikon than it is on a Canon.
And I would select the focus point so that you can either put it on the horse's shoulder, or on the horse's back, or on the horse's head, and you move it around as you're shooting.
So the last question, I'm sorry that I'm not going to reach everyone's questions, but the last one I'm going to do, just because I've seen it come up and up and up again, is that so many people have said they long to do this, but their confidence is so low, and it's because they're scared of getting it wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe with a model's.
Yeah, I saw that. So, you know, I think the one thing to remember is that if you go for a model call and you tell them, you're honest, you say, look, I'm starting out in this, I haven't done this sort of shoot before, or I haven't had that much experience. So, you know, I'm willing to give you whatever it is that you want to give to them after, but just be completely honest and say, look, I don't know how these are going to turn out. But the key is to make them have an amazing experience, however good or bad the images come out. So if you treat them with kindness and really appreciate their time and their effort, and make them feel as though they've done an amazing job for you and you are very, very grateful, then I think if the images aren't quite what you had hoped, and maybe they aren't quite what the model hoped, but actually you're just a really nice person and it's been fun working with you, then that's what really matters at this stage. And you need to get over that fear, because the chances are what will happen, you'll go do the shoot, the owner's going to love the images, whether they're what you expected or not, and hope to produce or not. So don't let that stop you. You've got to start somewhere. Everyone does. So just go and do it.
So there's lots of lovely comments about our new course. Thank you, Lucy, Carrie, and lots more of you who have said, bought it last week. It's amazing, perfect companion to the other course. New course is amazing, very informative, loving the content. Now, I don't just read out all the positives. Nikki, I do want to address this. No, not Nikki, Nina. Personally didn't find the processing section on the previous course very helpful due to presets being used. Fully heard you on that one, and you'll find in module 6 of our new course, I do walk you through temperature, exposure, shadows, darks, highlights, and I don't use a preset. It is all using everything that's available on the right-hand side as sliders on Lightroom. So I do hope that does answer that question.
Sorry, I noticed there were 2 questions about how long the course was.
The modules. Yeah. So the new course, the modules are averaged about an hour per module, so that you can keep revisiting it and you don't have to sit through 12. We've been on courses, guys, where the modules have been 12 hours and they don't need to be.
No, well, you only watch 2 and then you can't get through it.
Because you can't get through it.
But the second course, again, the modules...
They're a little bit longer, but they're also split up into much shorter chunks, so that if you're interested in artificial light or you're interested in backlight, you can watch that module on its own. So I'm sorry we can't get to everyone's questions, because they're all here and they look amazing. But I think we'd all be sat here for another couple of hours. So anyone who hasn't joined the Facebook group, please do go and request access now. I'm going to let you all in, and do continue the conversation.
And remember that we are back here the same time next week.
We sound like a TV series.
Do we know what the webinar's about?
We do.
We do. I have written it. I can't remember what it's about, but it will be really good, I'm sure. So if you guys want to hang out with us again for another hour, we'd love to have you back. And we hope you've enjoyed it. And thank you so much for giving up your evening. And we hope it's been helpful.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for all your lovely comments as well. We appreciate the love.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.